Do you think that Tua and the Dolphins can continue this run, or do the 49ers defense find a way to stuff what seems to be one of the most electrifying wide receiving cores in Miami?
I've been going back and forth on this one because similar to what we talked about just a couple of minutes ago between the Vikings and the Jets, I could definitely see a scenario where both the Dolphins and the 49ers can win this game respectively. I'm going to go with the 49ers in this one, and here's why. The Dolphins offense has been absolutely electric the last month. Since basically Halloween until now, they've put up 30 points plus. But we kind of have to take these games with a little bit of a grain of salt because the last four games that they played against, as far as the teams are concerned, they played the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, and the Texans. Not necessarily the stiffest competition that you're going up against in the NFL. There are definitely some teams that are of better caliber than those that I just outlined. But nonetheless, the Dolphins went out and handled their business, and Tua and the offense really lit it up. But whenever Miami has gone up against top tier talent this year, they have relatively struggled. We look back to, I want to say, the middle of October when they played the Vikings. Mind you, the Dolphins were home in that game, and the Vikings won on the road by a touchdown in that game. Not only that, the week before that, the Jets absolutely dominated the Dolphins, 40-17 at home. The Dolphins on the road lost by 23 points. And one of the key factors that I look back to that game was, Kev, was Tua hurt in that game? Was
I
was Tua not?
believe so. I think that was the big game where it was like he wasn't even available because he had just gotten
e-
concussed
e-
against the
e-
Bengals before.
even the one thing I have to take away from that game was the fact that the Jets defense was so stifling that they held that what I would consider is a high powered offense. In the Dolphins, I mean, the Dolphins are a great offense as far as I see it this year. And even though that Teddy Bridgewater wasn't able to do anything, I think it was in large part predicated on what that Jets defense was able to present because they essentially locked down that Miami Dolphins offense. Now, going into this game, the Dolphins are going to go up against a top caliber defense. And, when you look at their history this year, they have struggled against top tier defenses. And going out to the West Coast against a surging team like the 49ers, I think it's going to be a tough out for them. I'm not saying that the Dolphins can't do it, that they can't go on the road and pick up this win and head back home with a dub in their pocket. But I think in more cases than not, I think the 49ers get this win. I think it's simply because that 49ers defense is going to be able to get some sort of pass rush against Tua, maybe get somewhere around 2, maybe 3 sacks in this game, maybe get to a point where Tua forces an errant pass, it gets picked off, and the 49ers may convert it on the other side by turning that turnover into points. And not only that, when it comes to the 49ers offense, they've been hit and miss this year. There have been times where they have looked great, and there have been times that they have looked subpar. I think this is one of those games. They know the stakes at hand here. They got to go out there and dominate. And I think that you're going to see a very well rounded performance from this 49ers offensive unit. I'm thinking that Christian McCaffrey's not only going to be involved in the run game, I think he's going to be heavily involved in the passing game as well because he's extremely effective when utilized in screens, checkdowns. You always have to account for him. And when it comes to the wide receiving core that the 49ers have at their disposal, they have multiple options to go to here. You got Deebo Samuel, you've got Brandon Ayuk, you've got Jawan Jennings, you've got Kittle at the tight end spot. Like, there's no shortage of targets for Jimmy to go to. It's just he has to hit those targets consistently. And if they're able to do that, I think the 49ers can win this game in a relatively close battle. I will say, though, if Tua and the Dolphins offense could put up points in this game against that 49ers defense, is it going to be a great game? Hopefully, I'm picking the 49ers to win this game, but I want this to be a high scoring game. I want this to be where Tua and Jimmy are going back and forth because Kevin and I were kind of talking about this before we started recording. If Tua was playing a little bit more flashy, but he's had a great year nonetheless, he'd be at the top of the MVP discussion as far as I see it. I don't know if he'd be the number one pick, but he'd definitely be in the top 2, top 3 picks this year. It's just that Tua doesn't really flash people doesn't really go out there and make those Patrick Mahomes type plays or Josh Allen type plays. But nonetheless, he's very consistent. He's extremely effective in the passing game. And hopefully, for me, I just want Tua to go out there and play the best that he can. And hopefully, it leads to a high scoring game where this game just turns out to be a shootout. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think the Dolphins may get somewhere around 20, maybe 23 points. I think the 49ers are going to get somewhere around 27, maybe 30 points. Maybe 30 points is pushing it. Maybe like 28 is maybe the most I see them getting. But I'm going to say that the 49ers win this one in a very close game. I'm going to say the 49ers win this one 27-23. They maintain their number one spot in the NFC West. And when it comes to the Dolphins, look, the Dolphins are still one of the better teams in the AFC East this year. Hell, they're even one of the better teams in the AFC as far as I see it. So even if they were to lose this game, not going to be too worried about them. It's a very difficult matchup for them going out to the West Coast. But I definitely think that the 49ers have a better chance to win this game. Can't rule out the Dolphins winning this game because I think they have the requisite pieces to do it as well. I just favor the 49ers a little bit more than the Dolphins. But Kev, the floor is yours.
I'm going with San Fran too. I think that the combination of Miami's injuries to their offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they lost Armstrong. He is listed as doubtful, who is the left tackle, so that's not to his blind side because he's a lefty. But I'm also looking at the potential injuries on San Francisco's side. Christian McCaffrey's hurt. Deebo Samuel's hurt. Eric Armstead is listed as questionable. He hasn't played yet. He was limited in practice. And I'm just thinking, well, both teams have some injuries, but I think that San Francisco, with that defense, I think that San Francisco, with the weapons that they have available to them and how they've been playing as of recent, I mean, Nick Bosa is a man on a mission. He is one of the most dominant pass rushers this league has to offer. And I truly believe they are going to find a way to knock Miami off of this win streak or this, I want to say, of course, now a synonym is going to leave my mind like an adjective to describe what the Dolphins have been doing. But let's just put it at this high level of play. They had a high moment last week going up against a bad team in Houston, and they were able to dominate them on all facets. I mean, Mike McDaniels was joking around the entire time on the sideline. I mean, he was mic'd up. Tua Tagovailoa was seen to be laughing on the sideline. So, I mean, like, everything's good and dandy when you're playing against scrubs. But, I mean, when you're going up against one of the best offenses in the one of the best defenses in the NFL, laughs and jokes tend to kind of wither away as the game progresses because it becomes very physical. It could potentially even be chippy. I'm not saying the Dolphins are going to get blown out by any means, but if Eric Armstead finds a way to play, that is another pass rush that's going to be let loose on Tua Tagovailoa. So you have to look. Austin Jackson's listed as questionable. Teron Armstead is doubtful, meaning he's probably not going to play. Both running backs and Myles Gaskin and Raheem Mostert are listed as questionable. So that is going to take away the options of the offense in terms of rushing attacks outside of Jeff Wilson. How much more limited can you be? You have to be able to run the football effectively to keep the clock and keep the ball away from the opposing side. The depth of the running back core is going to be limited, and the offensive line in terms of protecting Tua, who has been injured already this season, is also banged up. I think that combination is going to make Miami very one-dimensional. I don't see them giving Jeff Wilson 25, 30 touches. I think they're going to lean on Tua to throw the ball 30-plus times to really get them out of a jam. And I think that is where the turnovers are going to come, and I think that is where Tua is going to make some mistakes. I'm not saying that Miami's defense are scrubs, and I'm not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is not prone to make mistakes in key big games. But I mean, he's playing very well this season. He's got 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Tua's got 19 and 3. So it's not like these quarterbacks are very different. They're both very conservative. I would say that obviously Tua right this moment is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But I am going to lean with the team that has a better defense and that is going to hopefully take advantage of the injuries to the offense of the other team. So I have San Francisco winning a close one at home. I think that this one could easily be anywhere from 28-24, but I agree with Kyle. I would hope that this becomes a shootout. I would love to see both teams go at it. I know that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the best 1-2 punch in the league in terms of at the receiving core, but if Tua doesn't have time and if he can't reach the deep ball because of his lack of time in the pocket, I think that is going to take them out of the equation, and that makes them not necessarily null and void. I just don't think they'll be as impactful. So I have San Francisco winning and moving on to 8-4.